is a hopeless jumble, and the raindrops tumble all around.
My name is Jeff Botzler. I live here in Santa Barbara, and I got involved because I coached team and training for a few years. Over the last few years, if you don't know team and training is the fundraising arm for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. So Teresa Martinez had just gone into remission with her cancer, and literally 2 months before she was bedridden, could not walk, so weak because of chemo. And so she's out there training for a marathon, and we're all just amazed that she's even walking and starting to run throughout the process. And so she did a fundraiser. Like, as I got through with my meal, I'm like, you know what, like, I gotta do this. Like, it's not really a question of whether it hurts or not. So I was like, I'm doing it, we'll get in. So I got into the registry. All they say is a 36-year-old, your possible match. There might be a couple others. But what we need to do if you still want to go forward with it. So they give you the option at that time, and they're like, hey, you are the best match. We need to get moving quickly. You're talking to City of Hope.
Okay.
So they get you a contact at City of Hope, and they are fantastic. Like, the whole way through, like, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to happen next. What happens during that process is you just feel, everybody has different degrees of it, but they said you might feel nauseous, you might feel achy bones, etc. Here's some of the symptoms. I didn't feel nauseous at all, and that was what I was most worried about. Because like I usually get vertigo more easily than most, so I was worried about that. Didn't have any issues with that. Just the 4th day is when I started to feel achy bones. And the achy bones, if you don't understand, is when you get sick.
Like,
you know, when you get sick, it's just like when you get sick. Yeah, exactly. And so your bones, within your bones, are creating so many white blood cells that it just creates a pressure. So it's good that your body's actually doing that. So I kept thinking to myself, oh, this is great. Like,
yeah, it's working.
It's working. I'm building up all my white cells. I'm going to be able to give them up. More often than not, now they're giving you shots 5 days before, building up your white cell count, and then you're giving your white cells through your blood rather than the surgery. They're baby needles, and like everybody can get through them.
Yeah, for sure.
It might take some loud classical music, whatever. The thing that I kept reminding myself is, I'm healthy, so I better get used to this now, where I get to choose to go through this. Would I be strong enough to go through what she's going through? And it's like, I don't think so. Why did I ever question? Why was I ever scared?
Yeah.
You know, it was so doable. It was so easy. Like, at the end of the day, like, there should be no one that doesn't accept it because of fear. At that point, he's been through the worst chemo he's ever been to.
Totally,
like, talking to him, he's like,
depleted.
The biggest accomplishment for the day was rolling over. That's how weak he was during this process. They quarantine him, obviously, because they're so susceptible to any sort of germs. And so then he receives my white cells, and the countdown's on is, are they going to accept into his bone marrow? It was 10 days in before they got a final confirmation that my white cells had been taken. Mia Hamm, she puts on a celebrity soccer tournament, gets about 10,000 people to the game, and then encourages everyone to get into the bone marrow registry because she lost her brother at 27 years old. Mia and her husband, Nomar Garciaparra, they come up and they're like, thank you so much, and they're signing autographs for all the little kids. But you could just see in her eyes like how impacted she is. So it's kind of a build-up, and you're nervous, and you're meeting Mia Hamm and Nomar Garciaparra, and you're like, okay, what is going on right now? Like, this is not a normal day in Jeff Botzler's life. And so you go, and so at halftime, they bring you down, they shuffle you through the tunnel, and you see all these celebrities lined up and all these other people in the field. And then you see the announcer that you've talked to before, and he's talking to these two, a man and a woman. And I know that I donated to a man, so I know immediately who's the recipient of my bone marrow, and I'm like, wow, like, this is crazy. I can see him, he cannot see me, and I'm just gonna hide, because I'm gonna hide behind these people. So then they talk to him real briefly and ask him how it is, and the thousands of people, I think there was 10,000 people at the event, they're all listening and hearing the story, and like everybody's at tears, like this guy's alive, like this is amazing. And then so then they're like, hey, are you ready to meet your recipient, your donor? And at that moment, so the people in front of me part their ways, and I just come walking out and just give them a huge hug. And I mean, like this guy, it was like such a great hug. And we're just sitting there, you know, like teary-eyed, and it's just like, hey, bud, we're in this together. And he's like, thank you so much. So now I call him my white blood cell brother. At the Mia Hamm Classic, the celebrity soccer tournament last year, I think they had like 200 or 300 people sign up, and at this year's event, she was announcing that because of those 200, one of the 200 was a match. He's a principal. How I got into team and training, my grandfather is living with the like mildest case of leukemia. My grandfather was school principal. So that's Jack and Caroline. So when Jason found out he was going to come out to California, they had never been out to California, and meet me, the news, someone told the news, and so they went out and interviewed him, and they're like, what is it going to feel like? Are you excited? Are you nervous? You know, going through all the questions. And one of the questions they asked is, what does it feel like to have a second chance at life? That was being played, and his son Jack got to watch it. And that question came up, is what does it mean to have a second chance at life? And 8-year-old Jack's like, Mommy, what does that mean? This is what was truly given to the family, is those two kids having a father. Really, there's nothing to be afraid of. It was easy to go through. It shouldn't have ever been a reason for someone to say no because of fear. The biggest thing with registering is a lot of people register because they want to save a friend that actually has the cancer. And what we need is bodies, but what we don't need is bodies that'll say no. Do it if you get the call. Don't get in just for that one friend, because there's only an opportunity. I think the numbers are so quite low for you to actually be a match for your friend, unless you're a sibling.
Still, it's only 30%.
But it's still like 30% if you're a sibling. If someone told you, I'm going to kick you in the shin, but in bearing that pain, you're going to be able to save a life, there's no question. You're like, bring it on, kick me in the shin. Like,
yeah.
I mean, and that's probably the pain. I mean, you would go through. So it's just accepting the reality that you're going to save a life more than worrying about the pain and the fear. If I get a call tomorrow and they're like, hey, you're another match, I'm super proud of my white blood cells.
Somewhere over rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby, and somewhere